heartbeat thing we had going.
Yeah, it's very Pink Floydish.
We should be live. Welcome to ACAB Radio. I'm your host, Jay Lyfer, King Ron, Kelly Special K Patterson. I hope my mic's working all right because it sounds a little funny in my
Yeah.
headphones, but
It's cutting a little bit, but I got you.
sounds better now. All right, we're brought to you by Nevada Cop Block. That's nvcopblock.org. And Food Not Bombs Las Vegas. That's foodnotbombslasvegas.org. Thank you all for tuning in. This is a very special episode 32. So,
Damn, we're getting up there.
yeah. I turned 33 today. I was kind of hoping that that would sync up, but we're off by one. Special birthday episode.
That's true. Happy birthday, man.
Thanks, man. Thanks.
Yeah.
We got a great guest today, Gail Sacco. Let's hopefully we don't have any technical difficulties here. Gail, are you there?
I'm here.
All right.
Yeah. All right, Gail Sacco, Food Not Bombs Las Vegas legend. Can you hear me all right, Gail?
I can hear you.
Yeah, we're having a little bit of problem with our headphones.
I think there's also a little bit of a delay on Skype, so
Yeah.
Yeah,
you
so
have to kind of
bear with us there.
There we go.
All right.
pause.
Oh, look at that. We got a split screen. Look at that, man.
There we go.
We are fancy as hell.
So we've got Gail here. Gail, why don't you introduce yourself to the people?
It's been a while. I guess I'll just go back to 2005.
Yep.
That's when my son, Joe Jr., invited in Circle Park for a community. I went down and I had never been involved with Food Not Bombs, even though we were from the Boston area. But so since then, I started going down to the park every week with food, vegan, with anyone who was hungry. So it wasn't just homeless people, but it was just anybody. It was a community building type of event. Complaining because the homeless were in the park. Homeless people, they just wanted for the neighbors only, and started giving us citations for having 24 people without a permit.
Mm-hmm.
You couldn't get a permit at Circle Park. So eventually, I had 3 citations. We faced $1,000 fine. Eventually, LU came to our rescue against the city. So that's when my homeless started.
Yeah,
I
Gail,
don't
we
know.
seem to
Jump
be
in
having,
here, Kelly.
we're starting to have a little bit of a lag here. Is that going out?
Yeah, let me, it's breaking up a little bit. Let me see if
So,
I can fix that. Maybe this will help a little.
Yeah, this gives us a chance. We'll and we can get Kelly to chime in here for the
Yeah,
history.
So the original version of Food Not Bombs in Las Vegas was sharing food with people at Circle Park, which is what we're doing now. But there was a big gap between that, and the reason for that is that the city actually passed a law stating that it was illegal to share food with people in public. And part of that law, and part of the reason why that law got overturned pretty quickly, was that they based that on if the person that you were giving food to appeared to be eligible for social services. So basically it was if somebody looked homeless, you weren't allowed to share food with them. And that got overturned pretty quickly. And then, as Gail was saying, they started using the permits and saying if you had more than 24 people, then you had to get a permit. And not only did they do that, but they also would count anybody in the park, even if those people were not involved with Food Not Bombs or were not, getting food from Food Not Bombs. If somebody was on the other side of the park playing football, they would count those 6 people or however many people was playing football as part of your group. So they made a pretty concerted effort to find some way to shut Food Not Bombs down. And much like it is today, a lot of that had to do with neighbors complaining because they didn't like to see homeless people at the park.
Which is the case still today. When we
Right.
go out there.
And because they anyone can become homeless.
Right. That's what
Saying the other
that's what a lot of the neighbors don't understand.
deserving
is-
homeless. Yeah, the deserving homeless and the undeserving. And so they want to believe deserve to be homeless or they're drug addicts or whatever. And they do not want to believe any time.
I don't know
Another
if-
thing that happened was when we filed the lawsuit,
Yeah, Gail, we're cutting out pretty bad. I'm
Could
thinking,
try,
should we?
calling back?
Yeah, do you mind if we like log off and then we can log back in and see if our connection will be a little stronger? Because to be honest, it's breaking up and people are going to be missing like some really good truths here, and I want them to understand, really what our history is and what's been happening, and see as much as things might have changed, they haven't really changed. So we're going to log out and we're going to give you a call back. Are you comfortable with that? Not that you're able to answer because we're having that lag. So
Yeah, we don't have the
So-
weather on our side, that's for sure.
yeah, it's a cloudy, rainy day in Las Vegas, one of the few. So we're going to do this. We'll get back to her, and hopefully our connection will be better because this information is really, really important to everything that we do. And I mean, this show and all the activist work that's done by a lot of people all kind of started with the Food Not Bombs and the issues under Oscar Goodman, who once equated the homeless to pigeons, and all the negative connotations that he was trying to get there. He was an awful, horrible human being and still is. And now his wife, which is just a mouthpiece to continue his bullshit, is the mayor. And she is just as horrible and, disreputable. So we're not huge fans of her either. And we've met her in person and we've talked to her one-on-one. So this isn't just from seeing things she said in the news. This is one-on-one conversations during some events that she held.
And as Gail mentioned, people were cited and actually arrested, and Gail herself was cited 3 times. I believe she was arrested once also. We could ask her when she comes back the exacts on that. And
Yeah,
her
the-
son, Joe Jr., I know was arrested at least once. He was actually arrested for chalking, so that's fun because that's a good tie-in to us since that's our big case where we were decimating the city with easily washed off stuff. So
All right, so where are we?
I texted Gail. She said she's trying to call back right now. We dropped the Skype call. It's really raining really bad out here in Vegas, so we don't have the weather on our side right now. But
we're pretty sure the government's involved with their chemtrails.
Oh,
trying
and
to
their
solve-
weather manipulation
Right.
machines.
yes, we've been sabotaged in coordination with Mark Zuckerberg.
Yeah, and this is kind of one of the things also why when we ask for donations, those donations will come in and help us upgrade our equipment, so you don't get to miss any of
And then
this
we can
conversations and things.
Manipulate the weather and
Right.
and
Well,
feed
we
it
are
back.
planning on buying a weather manipulation machine just to counteract the government's. I mean, somebody's got to do it, right? Why not us?
This guy agrees.
There we go. So, yep, we're going to try to call you back, Gail, if you're listening to us, as I know you often do. Sounds like a submarine. We're sending out sonar. You guys are lucky. What?
She has to call us.
Yeah, we'll get Gail to
Change
call
my
us
mic
back.
too, because my mic keeps messing up.
Yeah, we're cutting out.
We're being attacked on multiple fronts.
Guys, you really got to start coming in with the donations. You could see our equipment needs serious upgrading,
We do need
and-
we need outfits for these.
and we do need the outfit for the pigs. So we got Joey the Tech Guy on it right now, and we'll see if we can get a little better quality. And I have a feeling the weather does play a large part. It rains like 6 days in Vegas, and of course it's happening while we're trying to do an important show here.
Let me see if this mic works a little better. I think it does. Sounds good.
You know,
Waiting on Gail to call back. She
Right.
hasn't called back. I called her. It says she's not online, but I know she is.
It's a liar.
they lie.
Skype's messing up. But until she calls back, we'll cover a couple stories here.
Who's Skype owned by? Was it it's Windows, right?
Yeah, I don't even know. So there was a police officer in Missouri, hits, kills 4-year-old walking to school on the sidewalk. So she went up on the sidewalk. Her story is that she was going to park on the sidewalk to make sure that the kids are, loading onto the buses safely and
She wanted to
whatnot.
make sure the kids were safe. So
So she ran one over on the sidewalk.
Nice.
It's very sad. Kid, 4-year-old kid died.
I mean, to be fair, if that kid would have been paying attention and had enough time to run away,
yeah.
I mean, you can't blame her for just barreling onto the sidewalk.
Yeah, this presented a real problem for the media too, because as the victim was only 4 years old, they didn't have a very lengthy rap sheet on the 4-year-old that they could bring up and smear their name.
I heard they were late for school like 3 times that year, though.
Yeah, so I
So-
wonder if the media brought that up, like, well, she's got a history of being tardy and jaywalking, and just very tragic story. Just officer negligence. This is Andrea Heese, I believe her name is. Yeah, real tragic. Another crazy story was this dirtbag. Cop found missing teen, then raped and impregnated her. Now the family's suing. So he has been sentenced. He's in prison now, but so this article is just about how the family's suing him, but I thought it'd be worth talking about just
Yeah.
because.
I don't know how long he's in for prison, but not long enough.
And you always know that they're never caught on their first time.
Mm-hmm.
So this is probably going on a lot longer. The statistics bear that out. So you could rest assured that there are other victims out there that just are too afraid to come forward or so.
Absolutely. It's just, again, tragic. This was a teen who had been missing, and it's supposed to be a happy moment when a missing person is found. And this cop was involved in finding her, and then ended up going back to the teen's house and basically stalking her, and then ended up raping her, and she got pregnant.
Yep, there's no horrible story or tragic story that the police can't get involved and make worse.
Yeah.
So,
Absolutely. Here's another one. Another sick fuck. Search warrants reveal more about child porn investigation into former CPD officer.
right. And that CPD is Child Protective Division, or is it? Or
It's probably
or
Columbus.
Columbus.
oh,
Police
police department.
yeah.
Oh, there we go. So,
Mhm.
because I know there was a recent article too about Child Protective Service worker also being, but
Yeah.
You know what I mean, guys?
Last week we talked about I believe it was a police sergeant or police captain that got a DUI. Now it's a judge, but they didn't even bring him in. He blew over the legal limit, and of course he gets a pass.
Well, he's above the law. He's a judge.
Yeah, separate rules for them and for us, of course. So I thought this was worth bringing up.
And that would be good when he's in court and he's, deciding a case against somebody who's charged for DUI.
Yeah, how many people did he send to jail or even prison for DUI?
So even if he's not in jail, at the very least, he shouldn't be a judge.
So Gail's texting right now. I'm trying to
All right.
help her with this.
We have secret messages coming through.
Can we just, act out what she's saying?
Ooh, pantomime.
All right? This guy also can act it out.
So we are working on the issue, folks. Please bear with us.
She said her camera and microphone went off. I don't know. Sabotage.
See.
This was pretty crazy, too. Man shot by Portland police. He was blind and had mental problems. And they shot and killed him. This was in Portland, Oregon.
Just like that old saying where if you're paranoid, that doesn't mean they're not after you.
Well, this goes to prove that point. So, I can't imagine how much lower it can go when the police are executing the disabled. This reminds me of a certain time in history when the disabled were sent to camps and done away with by the powers that be. And here we go.
Well, the disabled and especially mentally ill people are one of the target audiences of the police. It's one of the people they target constantly.
Right. Last week, the guy having a diabetic episode, dragged out and beaten the fuck out of by a couple of filthy pigs.
That taught him not to be diabetic anymore.
That's right.
Yeah, it's just crazy, man. This was another pretty crazy story. Cop basically tortures a deer to death. Ran it over, went back. Oh, here we go.
Damn, that's a cut you beat.
All right, Gail, can you hear us? Hello.
Can hear you, fucking.
Let's see. We're trying, Gail. We're trying. Let's see if our
Here we go.
We had Gail picture-in-picture. Cool.
Nice.
All right. We're doing some of the magic that we do, so whatever. But we got you up on screen, it looks like. And we got us on screen, so we look good.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on. It's not working. Gail, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
We can hear you now.
We just can't see you, though.
Well, we got a still frame of you, so.
Well, we got the voice. We'll be all right.
Yeah. So.
Okay. So what happened with the lawsuit was we filed the suit because of the permitting issue of 24 people or more, and how they would, even if other people were counting them with our group, then they were also lineless and taking the metro was homeless people and taking pictures of them with no due process and kicking them to the park and telling them that if they were back in the park within 6 months, they would be arrested. That went along with the lawsuit also. And then they were trying to change the public parks to children's only parks. So those were the three issues that the lawsuit was about.
Now, this is funny because when we were serving at the park this Sunday and the Parks Department came through, that's the exact same threat they made to me about closing the park or making it a children's only park. So the tactics haven't changed.
No, they're evil. No matter what they do, no matter what the law is, they do whatever they want. Now, with one of the children's parks, that they agreed when we went to mediation. They agreed that they would leave it open for the adults and the children, and they ended up closing it permanently. That was James Gay Park. So that's been closed permanently. And then you can see with Baker Park, they got rid of all the grass. They put in rocks and boulders. They put up a fence around the picnic tables so that only the soccer people could use the picnic tables. So that's when we moved back to Circle Park. Oh, but let's not forget about Frank Wright Plaza. We were serving down at Frank Wright Plaza, which was next to the old city hall, and Mayor Goodman ended up selling that public park to a private casino corporation.
Unbelievable. I mean, business is business, right?
So they'll just do anything they want.
There's no accountability and no public input.
No. And they'll vote this Mayor Goodman back into office again. And as long as we have a Goodman regime,
Yeah, they got a son also.
nothing's going to change.
Yeah. They still got one more that they could pull out.
Well, and probably no matter who's in office,
Yeah.
Well, it is kind of that thing, and it's kind of the same with the sheriff's department, or the sheriff. They kind of pick and choose who's going to be the next guy, and groom them to be.
Right.
So it's not that unusual.
So what you have to do is you have to just follow your heart and do what you think is right, and as long as you're not hurting anyone, and boots on the ground. And and we get more done rather than letting them keep telling you that send money to the shelters, send money to them, send money to Metro, and they're going to take care of the homeless problem. Now, the numbers of homeless have gone up. They're outrageous, and they're not telling us the truth about the numbers either.
Right, they're claiming 6,000, and I'm sure it's closer to 7 to 8, if not more.
Well, at one point we had, which they never would admit to it, but they said 16,000 at one time, and we knew that there was 20,000.
Right, and they haven't been leaving, so.
Yeah, and that's the same thing with the crime. When they talk about, now they're talking about the crime statistics again down at Circle Park, about how the crime has gone down. But years ago, I was watching the crime stats on a weekly basis, and I had proof that whether the park is closed or open, the stats are the same. And Circle Park has no more crime than any other place in the whole city.
Right.
So in Las Vegas Sun, the newspaper, I sent them my proof, and they found the proof themselves, and they posted an article about it. So it's their complete lies.
Yeah, and the other thing is the homeless people haven't disappeared, which is what they really want, is for them to magically disappear. Worst best case scenario, they've gone to a different location, and those crimes that they're talking about, would just be happening in a different place. So,
right.
And also, they do, their magical accounting of the crimes, and I know one of the things where they were saying that assaults are way down, but I'm sure a large part of that number is homeless people fighting amongst each other, which happens when you're, in that sort of situation, and when you're basically living on top of each other. So I don't doubt that they're fudging the numbers to make it look better than it really is.
Yeah, and they really haven't gone.
And as you pointed out, earlier, these crimes are for attempted jaywalking.
Right, quality of life bullshit.
Or
open container.
Throwing a gum wrapper on the ground by mistake.
Yeah, and one of the other things they brought up was burglaries, but burglary can be charged with just, if you're on a property that's not yours, they can actually charge you with burglary for that. So, like I said, they can they can do fancy accounting with the numbers and make it look different.
Yeah.
And I mean, and as for the
Yeah,
burglary
right,
too,
right.
we know, there's vehicles that drive through and pick up, and the majority of homeless don't own these vehicles, these trucks, and we've seen this for
Right.
ourselves. But they like to blame the homeless. They're easy targets, and everybody, gets on board. So it's silly.
What really
Right,
pissed me off? Oh, go ahead.
And even
Gail.
well, no. A lot of the crime is not like Ron said. It's with these pickup trucks that are driving through the neighborhoods and they're grabbing stuff. And homeless people don't own all these pickup trucks that drive around that make believe the day before trash pickup.
Right. And and the stuff that the people that are claim that they're taking, Christmas ornaments at the time, or I mean, like decorative items. Homeless have no need for those items. There's no need.
Right.
No need, no use.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean,
So
you can't take
Yeah.
Christmas lights down to a pawn shop and sell them.
Right.
You sell them for a nickel, maybe.
And another point is too, if the crime, if different crimes are happening, a lot of them are these gangs that Metro allowed to get bigger and bigger. They closed down their gang group, their gang force, or whatever it was. I think the current sheriff did that, and I mean the gangs that have been coming into the city, those numbers have gone up. So yeah, that's where your crime is going up. A lot of the homeless are victims of these crimes.
Absolutely.
They're victims of assault and battery by these gang members.
right.
And whenever you ask, I've called Metro in the past, and we had a homicide on Maryland, not Maryland, on Charleston one year. And when I called, the woman, whoever she was, the woman Metro officer, told me that no such homicide took place.
Yeah.
That's telling.
So, oh no, we don't have that. Yeah? Well, the guy was killed. He was murdered.
Yeah.
Right.
I knew it.
Sure.
And they don't know it.
Yeah. So what?
And
what
it wasn't,
What really pissed me off about, especially Circle Park, how they closed the park down and then said it was going to reopen. What was it, the end of November, and then they extended it. Said now I believe it's April that it's going to open up. What pissed me off about it is Bob Coffin. I mean, when he first ran for councilman, he's like, "Yeah, I want to get the park reopened." That was way back when it had been closed before, and he's like, and when he got elected. He's like, I'm never going to shut down Circle Park. Just another classic politician
He's a
flip-flopping.
lying shithead. Yeah.
Yeah. And now here we are in this situation.
And also for people that haven't been here for a while and aren't familiar with the area, Circle Park was closed down before, and that's because of the original ordinance they tried to pass to keep people from sharing food. After they exhausted all their different attempts with the permits and all that stuff and realized that they were going to lose, they came up with an excuse to close the park.
Mm-hmm.
And that excuse was that two people got into a fight and one of them, in self-defense, stabbed the other one. And they used that as a justification. The thing is, like, if you closed every business and every park and every location in Las Vegas where there had been a stabbing, there wouldn't be much of Las Vegas left.
Yeah.
So, they hype up the idea, oh, somebody got stabbed. So, that's not a rarity. People get stabbed all over town.
Yeah.
What's-
And at a bunch of different parks, too.
Right.
It's not like
But so
Circle
it's-
Park is worse than other parks.
Yeah.
Crimes
Well, and
happen at all parks.
And they did studies on that, crime levels around different areas, including the different parks around town, and they were all basically at the same level. There wasn't a dramatic increase of crime around Circle Park at that time.
No. Unfortunately, and I spoke to this earlier, at our current serving park where we share food now, I had that discussion, And besides the threat of making it a children's park if these guys don't clean up their act here, I asked them about Circle Park. I said, well, and the guy handed it, he says, well, it's closed because we laid new grass. And grass needs to grow and get stronger before people walk on it. And that was on Sunday. And yesterday and today, I read 2 articles describing why exactly the park is closed. The park is closed. It has nothing to do with maintenance. It has nothing to do with growing grass.
Or beautification.
It has to do with them deciding whether they want to open it again because of what they call the homeless situation, the homeless problem.
Yeah, so that's the
And
thing.
Right.
they lie right to your face, lied right to my face. They already have their lies, tucked away to come out when you discuss it with them. And of course, I said, well, then who's responsible for, opening the park, closing the park? The current park we're at, the hours were till 10 o'clock at night, and then they scaled it back to 5 o'clock, which were the hours at Hunt Ridge Park before they closed that park. There was no public input about closing the park.
Yeah.
So what it comes down to is it's quite evident. It's to harass the homeless.
A war on the poor.
And in the articles, you cannot punish the homeless. They deemed that you cannot do this. It's not a crime to be homeless. It's not a crime to sleep outside. And this is what was decided, though they take it upon themselves to make sure that they make it as inconvenient as possible.
Wasn't there another park that was closed in the area too?
Well, they
just
also
recently?
have
Well, they demolished one to rebuild.
they have like a history of that sort of thing because they had Circle Park closed for 5 years after the stabbing, and then we had gone to Baker Park,
Right.
which was down the street, and they gated off 90% of the park, and their excuse was that there was a soccer team that rented the park, which in the first place is a public park, so a private entity shouldn't be allowed to rent the park.
Or for long-term rental.
And they had it closed off and the gates locked so you could not go into this gated area even when the soccer team was not using it. So basically they made sure that the homeless people could not get into a large portion of the park.
Or the citizens,
And about half of what they could get into was covered by a playground. And Las Vegas has laws that you cannot be in a playground unless you have a child that's 13 years or younger. So they would use that to harass homeless people. And that's the reason we went back to Circle Park after it had opened again. And then, people were mad about that, but it's like, well, you harassed us out of this park, so now we're going to go back to where we were.
And the truth of the matter is that they're not changing anything. The people who are homeless are still there. They're now dispersed, and instead of being at the park, there's pockets all over the neighborhood. So the number of the homeless haven't changed, and from being out there, I can tell you that the numbers are actually increasing. From week to week, we see the number of people that were being, that was helping by sharing food with them, and we're seeing a large influx this past week. So, it's...
Well, the thing is that the city of Las Vegas has had years to try to solve some of the homeless problem. And they have not solved it because they keep giving money to the shelters. Now, I don't want to knock the shelters 100%. Every organization or every shelter or every nonprofit, might be good for something, but it's not good enough. And so the boots on the ground, establishing trust with the homeless people so that you can actually help them, get them IDs or birth certificates or government benefits that they qualify for. These shelters are not, in the city is not doing that. One year, one of the cops did an identification thing, and they gathered up a bunch of homeless, and they brought them down to the DMV, and they had them fingerprinted, and they gave them IDs. They did that one time, in well, what is it that 2000 since 2005, and then they never did it again. But that doesn't matter either, because when they're arrested for jaywalking, and then when they're let out of jail, they don't get their IDs back.
Right.
All that gets lost.
Mm-hmm.
So the city and the jails and the shelters are not enough, or they make it worse. And that money just goes around and around and around to pay these CEOs big money, big salaries.
Absolutely.
When what the city should be doing, they give monetary incentives to businesses, monetary, to fix their signs or to fix their front of their stores. Well, they should be given monetary incentives to put affordable housing here in Las Vegas. We need a housing first model, and they did it in Utah, and we keep saying we're going to do it, and then we never do.
Right. And the truth is, I mean, we went to a meeting about this years ago, and it was only until recently that they started getting on board. When they first suggested something like that, my God, it was like you suggested that somebody, dipped them in hot oil. They ran away from the idea. They were so disrespectful during the meeting. It was horrible. And now they're talking about it. Maybe another 10 years, they'll actually get something done with it. And then we all know the number one reason for homelessness is lack of affordable housing. Mm-hmm. And the economy here now, the rents are going up. So this is probably explains the increase of the number of people we see.
Yeah, we also have I believe it's the second highest unemployment in the nation right now.
And Las Vegas has been declared as the number one overpriced housing market in the country.
Yeah.
They know this, and you're right. They throw money to businesses, and yet they know that, and they start these initiatives, which I don't know if we talked about last week, where they tell people they have ad campaigns and they're getting on the media telling people not to help individual people. Community doesn't help community, person doesn't help person, to send your money and your donations to the shelters. And this year, while we're going out, last year we saw tents, blankets, food from many groups being given out. This year, this winter, we haven't seen any. And I ask constantly, hey, did the guys with the tents come by? Did the guys with the sleeping bags come by? Did the guys with the backpacks full of gloves and hats? And they've been absent. So I don't know if there's just not that many groups doing that, or if they're donating it to the shelters, and the shelters can only house a fraction of the actual homeless people out there. So sending them to an already crowded and filled up shelter, they're still on the street, and now they're denied these services that the boots on the ground grassroots organizations provide. So, they do everything in their power to crush down on the most vulnerable people. And it's an evil system. I mean, we really have to take a look at ourselves and say, is this what we are?
And we actually have commissioners telling people that if you give the people water, food, and blankets, it's unsafe.
Yeah.
How can they say that? Last year, we probably had more homeless people die in 13, 14, 15 years in each year.
It was a brutal summer.
Our homeless deaths are up. During the summertime, people are dying, and during the winter time, people are dying. And our numbers are way up. And getting back to those unemployment numbers that they say that the country has the lowest unemployment rate ever or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
that's deceitful also.
Oh, yeah.
Because people can't file for unemployment anymore. And they have to work 3 jobs, 3 minimum wage jobs, to pay the electric bill.
Yeah.
Right.
So these unemployment numbers are bullshit.
Yeah, well, that's part of the thing is they're really inadequate and underpaid jobs, and people have to work multiple jobs just to pay the basic necessities.
Right. Finding a 40-hour a week job is almost impossible. I have multiple people that I'm acquainted with who are getting 15 hours or less at their jobs, and they're considered employed. There's no way can you survive on 15 hours a week. There's just no way. So that which is why they work 2 or 3 jobs.
Yeah, I also
So-
read a study that in a city, if rent on average is over 30% of your income, the average income, then you're going to have a homeless crisis. That's where cities have the most homeless. So in Vegas, it's like something like 35% right now, which is why we're experiencing what we
Yep.
are experiencing now, because unemployment's the second highest in the nation. Incomes are down, and rent is just so high. So I know I pay half of my income goes to rent. So, I mean, and it's just going up every year. People's rent's going up, and that's a big part of the problem for sure.
And it only takes one catastrophe
Yeah.
to put you over the line. I have a friend who works full time and actually has a decent job, but had a catastrophic illness. A person who never thought they'd be on the verge of homelessness, asking for help because they had to choose between paying their mortgage or their rent and eating, having to come and ask us for assistance. And this person, when they were working and healthy, used to donate to us. And now they're receiving help. And it's amazing, It's just so close to being over the line here. I've been reading in some of the things that there's people are complaining that they've spotted families living in cars with children.
Yeah, and complain that nobody has reported them yet.
To police.
Yeah.
Instead of having the loving compassion that we should have for our brothers and sisters out there, they're worried about getting them incarcerated and putting their children into CPS or the children's shelters. We've truly become monsters.
Yeah, I'll say, that was on that neighborhood app.
Yeah.
And I saw that myself. And I was actually pleasantly surprised that most of the people came out negatively toward that original poster. But the original post was, I saw somebody staying at a parking lot near a certain store, and they were living in their car and they had children. Has anybody reported them to the police yet? So it's not bad enough. They need to be rousted by the police on top of that. And then somebody else was saying, well, we don't even know if those kids belong to them, And I was pleasantly surprised once again that somebody was like, so do you just go around if you see somebody at the store with children, you randomly call the police and report them as kidnappers? Because, if you have nothing to go by except that they're living in a car with their parents, that's not very much evidence that they've been kidnapped. I mean,
And the truth of the matter is, we deal with this quite often. People who don't live in Vegas view Vegas as some sort of land of opportunity. So they're coming in from California and other places, and we run across it, thinking that they have a better chance of surviving here than they do in California. And when they get here, and sometimes they're even promised jobs that don't materialize, they're jammed.
well, that's one of the things that, you always go back to about Vegas is how transient it is and how many people who are in Vegas are not from Las Vegas and have not been in Las Vegas for a long time. And that's part of the reason why we have a large homelessness problem, because people come here and they are taking a job, in construction or something something that, is doing well in Las Vegas, and they, uproot themselves from California or wherever and come here, or for whatever reason they come here, they don't have that support system of a family or a lot of long-term friends. So if they do have some kind of accident or some kind of health issue, or they just get laid off from their job, they don't have people to fall back on. and basically they're out in the streets.
Yeah, and it's not these people come here with nothing. They come here with savings to, when you move, you expect, and they come here with some savings, and Vegas chews it right up. It's not that they, planned poorly or anything like that. When I moved here, it took me longer to find a job than any other state that I ever lived in. The same for my partner. We couldn't believe what we had to go through to get work here. And, it's a tragic situation. It's a really tragic situation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, we've had people that are born in Las Vegas also that have ended up homeless, and there's a lot that I've worked with.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
all I can say is, boots on the ground. You can get more accomplished than running in circles with the city. The city and the county and the government, they have their place also. But I just advise people to get out there, boots on the ground, work together. I don't believe in going out there working alone, because it can be dangerous. Not from the homeless, but from anybody, from the gangsters or whatever.
The police.
So go out there,
Right. Well, guess you
and the
said
police.
gangsters.
Always have a witness with you.
Yeah.
Right.
So get out there, boots on the ground, and do whatever you think that whether your religion calls for you to do it, or whether your spirituality, or just common morality. Just get out there and do what you think is right, and don't these all these threats. Just work around them. If you're not supposed to park in front of a red zone, then park around the corner and bring a 3-wheeler with you.
Mm-hmm.
Just keep getting out there, boots on the ground. It's the only way we're going to help anybody.
Yep.
You're not going to get any help from the city. This has been going on for too long.
Absolutely.
The city's not until the city helps with the affordable housing and housing first initiative. It's not going to get any better.
Well, that's one of the things, the city and especially law enforcement, especially Metro, since they're, the biggest one. Their idea of helping homeless people is a lot of times the problem, because their idea of solving the homeless problem is incarcerating them or driving them out of town,
Yeah.
which they literally would put them on buses and send them to L.A.
And into Utah.
Yeah. And
They send them to Salt Lake City.
that's one of the things back, there was a grant that came out from the 9/11 funds after, the bombing there. And I think this was in 2008 when it, started getting implemented. But Las Vegas got a grant that was supposed to be a homeless assistance grant, and they spent that money to hire more cops. So that shows you the kind of assistance that they want to give to people
Right.
that are in need.
Yeah. I saw.
And when they and what another thing that's important is when they think they're doing everybody a favor by arresting these people for jaywalking or littering or whatever, or laying down in a park sleeping, and then they get a citation for lying in wait of a child. And so when they get out of jail, there's no way that anybody's going to hire them with this bullshit on their record.
Yeah, which is what they charge
So they
you with.
think they're helping people. They're not helping anybody.
Yeah, and that's what they charge you with if you're too close to the playground without a 13-year-old child.
Right.
And it's not
Right.
an actual sex offense, but if you go in and you have that on your record and an employer sees it, what do they think?
Yeah. When you call it lying in wait.
Lying in wait of a child.
Right.
I've seen it with my own eyes.
Yeah.
Right.
There's no other way
Right.
to look at it.
They know what they're doing,
And that,
because that's why most of them get into law enforcement, so that they can have power over people.
right, and that law and that restriction of having to have a 13-year-old child with you to be in the playground was instituted specifically so that they could harass homeless people. And they use sympathetic sounding words. They say we don't want anybody there without a child under 13. And to the public, that sounds good, and that's why they use that sort of.
Well, they use fear tactics against
they use
parents.
that sort
Parents
of-
worry about their children.
That's why they use that sort of dialogue. But the reality is, they're creating issues that they can use to harass people that they do not want to deal with, and homeless people are generally that demographic.
Yep. Absolutely. I saw a video.
Betty
From,
person.
I saw a video from just.
And being a bit
Sorry, Gail. There's a lag.
oh,
Go
good.
ahead. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to person. I would say that there are more house offenders than homeless sex offenders.
Absolutely. The majority of sexual predators and sexual attacks against children come from family members and friends of the family,
And police
not,
departments.
and not from strangers. But it
Yeah,
doesn't
yeah,
make the
you're right.
news because it's not as exciting to read about somebody's uncle or their cousin or their dad as it is some stranger. That stranger danger sells papers. It gets people to watch the news. And it's phony. It's fake.
We were talking about getting them to accept services and like the drastic measures that the state's gone to. Well, I saw a video from just last week where they basically did like a sweep downtown.
And it looked like one of those dystopian science fiction movies.
It was,
where
yeah, it
Dumb
was,
bullshit, I
it was
saw.
surreal. Like cops parked like in the island in the middle of the street and over on the shoulder, and just cop after cop after cop breaking up people's tents and encampments and telling them over the loudspeaker, like, you will accept these services or you will be subject to arrest. Like, it's basically you're going to go where we tell you to go, and you're going to do what we tell you to do, or else you're going to be arrested. Like,
Right,
we will
we're taking
kidnap
you.
and cage you. We're not even going to write you a citation anymore. Like, you better accept these services. Like, it's just crazy. It was, yeah, like you said, like a dystopian future.
But it's illegal.
Yeah.
It's illegal to do
absolutely
that.
illegal.
Hopefully, I know people are working on it at the moment, and it's being looked into by people much bigger than us. But and we'll keep you updated because this is something you really should be concerned and worry about. It's kind of like, is this a practice run for the rest of us? They're honing their skills on the homeless. So when we have issue with something and we decide that we want to voice our opinion and we want to do it in a group, they have all their tactics down and they're well versed in order to shut us down and hustle us away.
Yeah, and I don't know what the exact number is, but I think it's close to 25% of the population right now that is below the poverty line. So the idea that this is coming for the larger group of people isn't that far off, because we're all not that far from being in that position and being homeless. And the economy is only getting more lopsided, so that dividing line is getting wider and wider.
There is a police war against
Yeah.
the people.
People, the people have to be careful on what side they're on.
It doesn't. It's a wild animal that they're unleashing on us. And I said, with this police war against the people, you've seen they've taken people of color, they've taken children, they've taken disabled, they've taken the mentally disabled, and they're murdering us in the streets on a daily basis, with no consequences. With no consequences, they're getting us to where it doesn't matter anymore. It becomes regular. Where I'm sure in the past, if the police were murdering children, the people would rally and be like, "This is insane," and now it's become so commonplace that people don't bat an eye at the abuses that the police are foisting on us. And that's why, ACAB radio, right? This is why we do what we do, is to wake the people up and let them know that there's real danger out there with the abuse of police power, and that it's time to have your voice heard. And with that voice, and hopefully as the people listen, they'll raise their voice in unison with us, and we can actually maybe slow this down and put a stop to it.
All right, we're getting close on time. Sorry about the technical difficulties, Gail.
We'll bring you back on again when we get this better.
Yeah, for sure. I think we might have lost her again.
You'll figure it out.
There we go. Well, that's it. It's the donations.
You'll figure it out.
We need better equipment. Get out there and donate.
Yeah,
to
you'll
ACAB
figure it
Radio.
out.
Thank you, Gail, so much for sharing.
Don't give up.
Never.
Don't give up.
We won't. Same
right.
to you. Keep on doing the good work that you do.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gail. All right.
Damn, that was quick.
Yeah, that went quick. Man, that's crazy, though. Like, I don't know. She said her mic and her video feed cut out. And then I get a message from Facebook saying I'm temporarily blocked.
Again?
Yeah, it just
There we go.
just pulled up on my phone, like, after I shared it out into some groups. They're like, you are temporarily blocked. So, I don't know.
There's the
I'm just-
censorship, folks.
Yeah,
Censorship.
I'm just hoping that this saves and actually posts. Yeah, crazy. Speaking of censorship, last weekend there was the Meet for Common Ground Summit. ACAB Radio was in attendance and made a lot of great connections, networking out there. Met a lot of big name people that were victims of the Facebook purge that happened just about 3 months ago. October 11th, bunch of big pages, Anti-Media, the Free Thought Project, Police to Police, Filming Cops, a lot of police accountability groups, Cop Block's main page, were completely taken down. Millions and millions of people reached, and Facebook decided it was time to silence those voices. So who knows how long we're going to be allowed on this platform. We will definitely be joining other censorship-free platforms, decentralized platforms like Minds, and some others. And it's a lot of work to shift to a whole nother platform. So we definitely need your help. We're in the process of making a Patreon account so that if you guys do like our content and want to help us, whether it's upgrade to better equipment so that my laptop can handle live streaming and Skype call at the same time.
Hey, this
when
is
there's
true
inclement
live.
weather.
This is true live pirate radio, folks,
Yeah.
man. We're bare bones
Yeah.
trying to get the information out there. So,
Yeah.
even if they shut us down, we'll pop up. We've done it before. We've been in different areas. We've been shut down, and we move, and we get right back up,
We're gonna
and we
drive
keep
around.
on.
We're gonna drive around with a
broadcasting.
megaphone.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Shuts
we'll be
down.
doing it out of the back of a van soon, so they can't keep track of us.
Yeah. So there's a couple articles we can do real quick. I think we talked about this with the deer.
Yeah, prick.
That was a rough one, but I wanted to talk about this. Yeah. The boxer.
We
the
got that
yellow
video where he
vest.
comes flying in from the fucking sky.
Yeah, if you haven't
Yeah.
seen it, it's on our page.
Yeah, you'll enjoy.
It's epic. He ended up turning himself in because they were looking for him, but he had a good message to the people. Don't give up. Keep fighting. But he did manage to raise $170,000 in just 2 days. So just to let you know the type of solidarity that they have out there. And I'm sure that money probably came from all over the world. Yeah, so I thought that was cool to bring that up. And I think that was the last story. Yep. So, events. Oh, next week we got a very special guest, Whitney Webb with Mint Press News. She's been on the show before, so if you haven't heard that, definitely go back and listen to that past episode. Covered a couple of her articles. She's going to be coming on to talk about the latest round of censorship, what the neocons and the deep state are trying to do next. They've created this app called NewsGuard, and she did a great job, investigative journalism, digging in, looking into who is behind NewsGuard, and it's CIA, NSA, just deep state. So we're gonna have her on to elaborate on that article next week. So yeah, definitely tune in. Thank you all for listening. Do we have any events coming up?
I've been kind of busy and I haven't been able to check, but
You got
For the
food not
eventual-
bombs every Sunday.
that's a standard,
Um,
guys. 11:30 Sunday in the downtown area. Look on our page; you'll find out where we'll be, and everybody's welcome to come down. Join us. You don't need to bring anything. If you would like to, we're vegan vegetarian. We try to keep it as safe and as healthy for the people out there as possible. But just your company, just coming down and creating community with us is all you need. And you'll meet a hell of a lot of nice people, the people that are already down there creating community with us. So we'd appreciate to see you.
Absolutely. There's an event Saturday, January 19th. If anybody's listening from New Jersey, in Trenton, New Jersey, Women's March on Pentagon
Nice.
joins Women's March on Trenton.
Go Trenton.
Yeah.
Just
There's a
drop through
peace
Trenton a lot.
peace contingent there to confront the bipartisan war machine and put an anti-war agenda back on the table of activism. We stand against empire and all forms of oppression. We support our sisters unequivocally here and around the globe. War is our common enemy. War is a women's issue. So thought I'd plug that event since we had Emma Fiala on to talk about the first annual Women's March. There's also the MLK parade happening this Monday,
Right.
put on by the Nevada Desert Experience. They
Yeah,
do
if
like
you're-
a float and stuff, right?
Yeah, and if you're in Vegas, you can go down there and watch half of Metro fucking marching in the parade. I'm sure MLK really wanted to see a bunch of cops.
Yeah.
But aside from that, this should be cool. Open mic, dancing, music, food, face painting, peacemaking, community building, and fun. The parade starts on 4th and Hoover, and the float will...
Hey, did somebody going to bring a Tashi Brown float down this year?
I'm not sure who...
Or, with all the police officers there, I didn't know if they were going to build a float or not.
I'm sure it'll be a strong, anti-war message, probably.
Well, when there is
Well,
a
they
lot
had
of
their
cops.
tank there before.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah, and they were doing a prayer circle around it.
Nice.
So, yeah. So the cops really know how to be appropriate on MLK Day,
Exactly.
because I'm sure MLK wanted to see the cops, not just see the cops, but have them praying around their tank.
Yeah. More in
As part of his
line
game.
with MLK Jr. That day, I'm going to be on Four Master with coffee and food. A bunch of local activists will be out there again. We shouldn't be receiving any citations since there is a building called CARE, and they're going to allow us to use their property to park and share with folks out there. So everything should go good. If you want to donate or help out, reach out to ACAB Radio, send a message if you're here in Vegas.
Yeah, and we'll be discussing this more on a future show because they're claiming that they're going to release the full dash cam and body cam videos. But Derek Colling has been officially cleared of any charges for killing Robert Ramirez up in Laramie, Wyoming. So he's free to kill again, and he's probably looking for his fourth victim. Well, he's still on paid vacation right now. They haven't reinstated him. So he's not out there looking for his fourth victim yet, but
He
he's
might be
free.
looking. He just won't be able to.
Yeah, he's probably picking somebody out, but he's not
Planning.
actually. Yeah, he's not wearing his magic suit yet, so he's
Yeah,
gotta wait
might
a
get
little
out of jail free card
while.
Yeah, so
or stay out of jail free card.
there's a lot of stuff that we didn't get to cover. Let me close all these. See, my laptop just can't keep up, man.
Mm.
So we did talk about that, but there's a lot of stories. We talked about that one and that one. Child porn guy, Wisconsin judge, we talked about that. Man shot, the blind guy that was shot. Touched on that. The deer.
Non-stop.
There's just a lot of stories. This is just a week's worth of stuff here, guys. This was a guy that basically talking shit about the cops on Facebook and was arrested. Not making threats or anything, but yeah.
Just doing what we do.
But this is the story that I want to get into on a later episode, where one officer shot another officer because they just yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, one
And we
officer
encourage
shot
that type
another.
of behavior among police officers. We usually don't encourage violence, but when it's pig on pig violence, I'm
Well,
not
that
going
was
to
where
say
they
no.
were in such a hurry to shoot a dog.
Yeah,
that
they were trying to kill a dog.
couldn't get out of the way of each other, and they shot each other.
Yeah, so there's an article on our page if you want to read into it, but they've just released a body cam, I guess. So we will be sharing that most definitely.
Was that dog a Chihuahua or is it?
Yeah,
bigger?
something.
I think it was bigger.
Oh, geez, they should have brought out,
Yeah.
the SWAT team.
Yeah,
They could really cheat each other up.
So that's all we got for you guys this week. Sorry for the technical difficulties. Next week, hopefully the weather will be a little better and we won't have any interference in our Skype call, because the Skype call next week will be coming from Chile. So
And we are solar powered, so without the sun, we just at a loss to do anything.
all right, thank you guys.
Have a good night, folks.
And